Hey YouTube, so you're not going to believe what I pulled out of this old Husk made in Japan Les Paul style guitar. I've been working on this. You can see it's right in the middle of my restoration. I've got some new tuners on there. I got the neck off and so forth. When I got this, it was and I've been working on the back and stuff, but very, very rough. I've got it didn't have a pick guard. It just, I mean, it was a husk. It was sold as a husk. It had one thing other than just having the electronics on it. Had one thing. It had a pickup on it, and I mean, it didn't even have tuners on it. So this is, I didn't expect much when I pulled this pickup out of it because it had already been stripped for parts. I mean, this was a like it didn't even have a pick guard, right? They took the tuners off it. They took the uh, truss rod plate. I mean, it was picked pretty clean. It only had one pickup in it, and yet this was what I pulled out of it. Now it does not look like much, which is why I think it didn't get pulled out. It's crusty, it's rusty, it doesn't have a plate on it, a cover plate and so forth. And even worse, it was on this twisted, I mean, look at this thing. It's like melted. I don't know if it like sat in the sun too long or something. It's all warped and it's got this like little metal, washer shim thing happening there. I mean, this thing is in super rough condition. And so, I mean, this did not look like much. And I think that's the only reason why it didn't get plucked. But it still boggles my mind that this had already been stripped for parts. And it was sold as a project. It was sold as a husk. I bought it as such. I did not expect to get anything out of it. But let's take a little closer look at this. You see right there, it's got a little T on it. And the back, and it's a little crusty. It's got a little oxidation on it and so forth, but it says patent number 2737842. And so I went, I wonder what that is. Usually they don't come stamped with patent numbers. I knew Gibson was fond of doing that, so I started looking. First thing I did was I just looked up the patent number. And it's weird, and maybe a Gibson aficionado out of there can like help me out, because I've been going through all these, forums and stuff trying to figure out why. This patent number actually links to a tailpiece that was patented by Les Paul in the mid-50s, like 55. And I don't know that it has anything to do with the patent on the pickup. This is the successor to the patent applied for. That is the famous PAF, the early Gibson humbucker, the PAF, the patent applied for, which would be stamped or have a sticker on the back, patent applied for. The earliest, so these came out, this is now the patent pickups. And the earliest of these, from what I've been able to figure out, is about 1965. Initially they had these stickers on the back, but sometime in the early 70s they transitioned over to actually stamping the patent, which of course is much better for longevity. A sticker might have rubbed off on this and nobody would know what it is. But this has got the patent number actually stamped in there. And so this places this, they call these T-tops because they've got that T and they've got these little like circles and there's little numbers and stuff. And so, between that, the top is correct. The back with the patent is correct. It's got the correct type of lead, although it's very short, and it was very poorly spliced in here. I mean, just terrible, terrible. Let me show you the blob of solder that was on here. Just terrible. It was very poorly spliced and had this piece of electric tape that wasn't even like fully ready. It was very poorly spliced in there, but who knows how long it had been in there. And and it's got a short lead, but I can of course add lead to it. That's not a big deal. But the fact is that this is a mid-1970s Gibson patent pickup, a so-called T-top pickup. And I tested it. I used my equipment, pulled out my multi and I tested it, and the ohms had tested exactly like it should. It was like right at 7, like 7.2, something like that. So it was like right where it's supposed to be. Everything lines up that this should be a completely working Gibson vintage pickup. that is worth about 3 or more times what I paid for this guitar. So sometimes you get a treasure. This is, you know, you open the oyster and you found a pearl you didn't expect. I did not expect this to be anything, but I figured it would just be some. I thought it, you know, my initial expectation was it was an original, the made in Japan, you know, that was a Matsumoku pickup. That was my assumption, is that they had for some reason taken one, but they just left the other. But somebody at some point had spliced in this very nice vintage, and it might have been new when they put it in. This, you know, this guitar is that same time period, so this might have been a very early conversion. Like, who knows? You don't know the history typically when you get a guitar, especially used project guitar somebody found in their attic, or you know, their uncle passed away or something, they found this in their garage. They don't know anything about it, so who knows what the story was behind this. But what a find. And I haven't decided what I'm going to do with it. It's worth enough that I might just sell it. It needs to be cleaned up, and you know, have a nice, I'll get some Gibson wire with the shielding like that to extend it so it'll have more lead. But what a find. So I haven't decided if I'm going to sell it, if I'm going to keep it and put it in something. For right now, I'm just going to hold on to it. But what do you guys think? And isn't this just crazy? I just absolutely did not expect to find something like this in. It had already been stripped. That's what just absolutely blows my mind. It had already been stripped for parts. They took the pick guard, but they left a vintage Gibson pickup in it. Wow!